My paternal grandparents were Japanese immigrants, obviously from Japan, and they came here in 1892, before the kingdom fell. So both sets of grandparents worked on the plantations. The paternal ones were here at Kohala Sugar Company, and they had 8 children. And my father Francis Sewell, was the youngest of the 8 children. And so they worked, grandparents were on the sugar plantation, and it was at the Halaula camp. Out of 8 children, I'd say probably 6 of them left school like early, 7th, 8th grade, even earlier maybe, to work on the plantations. Maybe the 2 youngest, including my father, may have finished Kohala High School. But that was common back then because everybody needed the money. So that, when the kids could work, they went to work. Because my father and mother had 3 children, and my father became a dentist, so he didn't end up working for the sugar plantation, but he was the plantation dentist from about 1947 for 30 years, probably 1977. So he was the dentist in Hawaii, and my mother was a nurse at the Kohala Hospital, and then she became eventually head nurse too, and that was Fumiko.
How did they meet?
They met here in Kohala at Kohala Hospital. They had 3 children, and I'm the middle girl of the 2. So I had 2 brothers, and we all went to Kohala High School, and we all graduated from there. Sugiyama, there was a lot of Sugiyamas here. As I said, there were 8 children of the immigrants, Sugiyamas. That's Hyakuji and Tai. And they came over on the boat in 1892. So the oldest son, Koichi, had the movie theater over in Kahei. And my other uncle, Harold Yoshio, became the captain of the police force here. My father was the dentist, and my uncle Nobu was doing construction work. And then Harold, the police captain's wife, was the postmistress at the Kapa'au post office. So there were a lot of Sugiyamas here in town. And so, of course, there were a lot of kids, too. So going to school, it was whose cousin are you, or whose sister are you, or whose daughter are you. So everybody knew that I was Doc Sugiyama's daughter. I'm the only daughter. It was fun. We had a lot of parties at there was always family around. It was fun to have a large family. I don't think there's any drawbacks in the sense that, back then, people didn't get into trouble. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't hear anything bad about my cousins or anything like that. So there was nothing you had to be ashamed of growing up in a community like this. Plus, like I said, everybody was pretty well respected. They were all this community leaders, and they were all my family. So I was proud of them. My grandparents all 4 of them were Japanese immigrants. They didn't speak English or even Pidgin English. They just knew Japanese. So I couldn't communicate much with them either. And so I don't remember anything about, what they were thinking. They had to come because on both sides, they were like the second son of the Japanese family. If you're the second son, you're not going to inherit any land in Japan. So they came for better economic opportunity, which was good because all of us became U.S. citizens, the Nisei, the Sansei, the Yonsei, the Gosei, we're like 5 generations or more now in Hawaii. So it's become sort of a proud heritage of very humble beginnings, because these were, as you know, indentured servants on the plantation. I remember my parents talking about that yes, they were given a plantation house in the Halaula camp, but they were not allowed to travel. You couldn't leave the plantation, you were there. So, they didn't own you like the cotton plantations in the U.S. mainland, But this really was plantation life, in the sense that because they were indentured servants, they didn't have a lot of freedom. A lot of people had 3-year contracts, so they renewed their contracts or they didn't. I think my mother's side were plantation workers on the island of Oahu, and then they came to Kohala as well. But they were running a store at one point, so they must have left the plantation, were able to, which is not true of like black Americans. They could not leave because they were owned by their plantation owners, managers. But at least the Japanese Americans, the Chinese, the Filipino, all that, they were not owned by the plantations. That's the difference that I could see in what happened here. That's why people could leave, go into business, and make something of themselves. And a lot of people did.